Welcome. You are at the CCC.
Where there are no outside issues. My name is Anthony. I'm an addict and an alcoholic, another bozo on the bus, and I care about you.
Yes, and I'm LouiLou, and my pronouns are he and him, and I'm in recovery for crystal meth and alcohol, and I am always in search of balance. Yes, and each week we strive to foster a brave space where we can engage in conversations centered around topics of recovery.
And our intention is to hold and inspire better spaces for more people in recovery by tackling issues sometimes used to separate us.
But before we do that, please like, share, comment on this episode, and rate us if you have nice things to say about Anthony.
And subscribe, tell your exes, tell your mom. And as usual, I'm going to wait for the music to die down so I can say the disclaimer. And now the disclaimer: the thoughts and opinions expressed on At the CCC are as alone. We do not represent anyone but ourselves. Material we talk about, share about, is for general information purposes only. In other words, we are just a couple of friends behind a mic here to entertain you.
Let's have a kiki.
Let's have a kiki. Happy Pride Month. Happy Juneteenth.
Oh, I know. Happy Juneteenth.
Juneteenth, not Juneteenth.
Oh my God, no! I it's Happy Juneteenth, but because I'm always working on that day, this is the second annual day of resentments. Because all my white friends are like, "Oh, we have the day off. I don't know why, but."
Someone said yes. Well, let's not pretend like there isn't someone sitting between us. So we have asked our dear friend Bryan to be on today. We'll introduce the topic in a second.
Spelled your name right too.
But yeah, Bryan's on. Bryan, say hi.
Hi.
And how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, thanks.
Thank you.
All right, that was a good one.
I know. I love that.
All right, it was quick, easy. Lewis, how are you?
I'm good. I'm really good. I missed last week. I'm so sorry. I still haven't watched it, but I was at the Janet Jackson concert. Hey, and while I was there, I was videotaping and sending them clips. I'm all, yes.
Yeah.
I felt alive.
Well, I feel like that's such a great experience to have because she like changed music.
I also feel like she had so many hits, and she managed to kind of incorporate a lot of it. And you know, some of them she sang all the way through, but a lot of them she sang bits and pieces or whatever, but you really felt like complete. I felt full. She fed me. And it suggests that she probably is not going to be doing this much longer because
Are you talking about Janet Jackson?
She's like 58.
Is she 58?
And she doesn't need to.
Yeah.
Because it's like she stayed in that relationship and had that baby. Like she stayed just long enough and had the baby to fulfill her duty. So she got like her $500 million or whatever.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, she had her own money. I love her.
I can't. Well, that's like 2 minutes I can't ever get back.
You know what? Trust me. After this, I'm going to tell you the rest. Don't come for me yet.
Well, I mean, I feel like what I really love is that this was a very meaningful experience for you. You know?
Absolutely. Wow. So you know what? I just want everybody who's listening to understand that I didn't create this monster.
Yeah, you did. This
monster was already here.
Every time I had to fight.
Because
what is it for the color purple?
Oh my God. You can't create something from nothing. It was just there laying dormant.
All my life. I had to fight.
How are you?
I'm doing really well. We just Bryan and I, the reason why we started late today is because we were at a rehearsal.
For what?
For the Miss Castro Country Club pageant.
Now, the dates may not matter if you're listening to this at another time, but it's the yearly Miss CCC pageant or the Castro Country Club pageant.
I thought I just said that.
Well, no, but it's the yearly one, and it is the winner. It determines who.
I'm just trolling you.
What determines who gets to host the.
It's a big fucking commitment. It's a year-long commitment. Yes. The winner will have to host fundraisers, et cetera, et cetera.
I was Miss Castro Country Club 2018.
I know you won't let us forget.
Not at all.
Were you Miss Castro Country Club?
Yeah.
I know you were. So let's introduce today's topic. So today's topic is bathhouses.
Well, it's sex and recovery.
Sex and recovery.
To go with our theme, and it's bathhouses and play spaces.
And play spaces.
Exactly. It's a good idea to talk about these things.
It is a good idea to.
Or it's just sex clubs. The topic says sex clubs because that sounds better. But Tubs. Somebody says
Bathtubs. We're gonna go to the tub.
tubs,
Yeah. And I wanted to put like just before we jump in, the guest we had on last week, Stephen Ferris, he wrote an awesome article about bathhouses.
Nice.
It's called "Out of the Tubs and Into the Streets: Tracing the History of Bathhouse Regulations in San Francisco." So it's by Stephen Ferris. It's a great article if you want to get like kind of really into the history of like bathhouses and like what they've served and like the legislation around it, etc.
Absolutely.
So yeah, bathhouses they've been kind of a big part of the LGBT community, specifically the gay bi community. And we thought we would have Bryan on today. Bryan, why do you think you were brought?
I couldn't possibly
Brian's
know
like,
why.
I came on pre-lubed.
Yeah, pre-lubed and ready to go. Wait, what was the question?
Well, the reason why we had you on is because you're a very sex positive person.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
You're a very sex positive person.
yes.
And
Which I think for me is like something that is more new for me since I moved to San Francisco. So
You mean that you being sex positive or
being more open, I
more
think,
open.
about like I moved here from Indiana, and Indiana is a lot more conservative, obviously, than San Francisco. And there is a bathhouse. There's actually 2 bathhouses there, but I never went. And moving to San Francisco, there's a lot more opportunity. There's a lot more men, and it's also like more accepted by everybody and like specifically the gay community that I'm in. So it's been easy to kind of explore those avenues and spaces that I normally was not going to.
I'm a little distracted because your headphones are on wrong.
Oh.
It's fine as long as you can hear.
I can hear.
It's left.
your headphones are on wrong.
Yeah.
I usually set them on there so that
They're wrong, but they still look good. So.
Yeah.
Okay. So you've brought up a couple things that are interesting. So one is kind of like the feeling, I hate to use the word liberation, but there is a feeling of liberation of coming into a city where there are more gay men and there are more opportunities to like explore sexuality in a way that doesn't feel like it's filled with shame.
Yeah.
Yeah. So would you say that when you were living in, did you say where you were living?
Indiana.
Okay. I was okay. So you were living in Indiana. So when you were in Indiana, do you feel like there was more? Were you kind of exploring your sexuality in a more closed off way?
Yeah, like I mean, I was in a relationship that was open, and we were I was having sex with other people, but it was more, well, first of all, open relationships I think in Indiana are like frowned upon. And I had multiple people like on Grindr and in public like saying like, oh, you must not love your partner and stuff like that. And it's like, no, I mean, we just like to have sex. And and there's a lot of like cheating and stuff, so it was just very kind of negative in that regard. And then as far and also conservative in terms of like what people like sexually, like for example, like I didn't know anybody that was like getting fisted in Indiana, and like in San Francisco everyone is. So like stuff
I'm being
like
fisted right now.
yeah, right.
That's what Steven does when he's not in front of the camera.
I know exactly.
Steven, get out of there.
You're like a puppet.
Go ahead.
But yeah, like stuff
You're
like
like
that.
a Muppet.
That's what they call me. Go ahead.
Oh gosh. But yeah,
Sorry.
so yeah, like it was definitely like liberating and freeing to come to San Francisco and meet people that were into different things. And some of that stuff I was like, oh, I'm into that. And then some stuff I was like, okay, I don't ever want to do that again. But just being able to explore that with people and not have to worry about them like saying hateful things or just even being nasty to me was definitely like it's been really good. So
what's so interesting to me about this is that you know, I didn't know you in Indiana. I met you when you came out here, and I always associated you with like a lot of the things that you're talking about now. So I would have never like thought, for example, that you ever had experiences of like feeling like shameful or kind of like alienated by other gay men.
Yeah, it's funny because like people are always like, oh, you're so sex positive, or like they call me a slut or whatever, which they say that like endearingly. But I mean, yeah, like when I was living in Indiana, I was very like I kind of sheltered, but kind of also like deprived of like a lot of stuff. So like I was very like reserved when it came to sex. And I think a lot of that too has to do with like some things from like my my sobriety and using and growing up and stuff like that. But yeah, I haven't always been this open.
Oh.
Well,
Louis, what's your experiences with like bathhouses?
Well, so we talked about this before because it's like you and I are kind of on different spectrums.
That's
different
right.
ends of the spectrum.
Yeah.
Like I'm not wanting to be in a relationship right now, and bathhouses or sex clubs, specifically the Water Garden in San Jose,
Which is closed.
Is that what it's
closed
called
now?
The
but
Water Garden?
It's called
Yeah,
the Water
yeah.
Garden.
Oh,
It was,
wow.
and it was very helpful in assisting me and coming out and exploring myself sexually or whatever. What I like about them is that like ideally everyone's going there for the same reason.
Yeah.
And so it's not one of those situations where although I do run into guys who are like, I think that they think they're going to find their one true love there. And it's not that you can't. I mean, you can do whatever. It's just that if you're coming to my room, you're probably not going to find it. I'm just keeping it real. It's like, because a big part of my sexual idea, and if you don't know what a sexual idea is like, we do that fifth step and we talk about like the things that we want in relationship and how we want to be. I want to feel dirty during, I don't want to feel dirty after. So I don't want to feel like I'm imposing what I need onto someone else. And also, the really cool thing I was talking to somebody, it's almost like a really progressive, old-fashioned way of connecting with people. Because online
Bathhouses?
bathhouses where the
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
in person.
Yeah.
Like obviously it's forward thinking and very sex positive, but when I see you walking in the hall and we make eye contact and we connect, we're connecting because we're connecting.
Yeah.
And it's not because I've created the story around who I am and you have to figure, you have to put the pieces together.
Yeah.
And hopefully I'm that person when I show up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I thought you said a fist step.
Well,
While we're on the topic.
apparently this is the theme. A fist step. Everybody takes a fist step.
Everyone does a fist.
You
Not a
are
fist
either the fister or the fisty.
Oh, my.
Okay, so what's interesting? We have a comment.
Oh, we do.
All right, let's take that comment. Brandon writes, going to bathhouses with a few trusted sober friends was incredibly helpful for me to get comfortable having sex again when I first quit using.
Absolutely.
Oh,
Brian,
yeah.
do you have thoughts on that? Because I feel like you were just talking about
So
that.
I do. I actually had an experience like this recently where I went to Puerto Vallarta with some sober fellows, and 3 of us went to the bathhouse. And believe it or not, I don't have a lot of experience in the bathhouses. That was only my second time going to a bathhouse, and a lot with a lot of the baggage that I have, like being naked in front of like friends and stuff, I thought that would be weird, but it actually was like one of the most like kind of fun bonding experiences, which I wouldn't have thought it would be like that. But I mean, it got to the point where we were like, oh, we're just gonna check it out and we'll be there like an hour, and then we were
then
there
18
for
hours
like
later.
4 hours. Yeah. And I remember like at one point all 3 of us were like sitting on this couch naked and just like talking to each other, and it was really cute, like
Mhm.
and and I also feel like kind of with the comment, like there is something kind of safe about knowing like that you have a sober fellow there, and because I mean I I never did like drugs that like crystal meth, which is heavily associated with like bathhouses and stuff. But I know like that those things go on there, and it can be very triggering for people. And so I think I would want someone to kind of have my back or have someone else's back when we're there. So yeah.
Having your close friends like there, or having friends or people that fellows connect, it's also a big part of normalizing this the connection.
Yeah.
Because like for me, one of the things that I try to make sure that I do is at least somebody in my life knows what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Because anytime I'm like sneaking, and don't get me wrong,
it's like when you send your address when you're going to go hook up with someone, you're like, if
exactly.
I don't text you in 15 minutes, this is where my body is.
And it's like a safe thing. It's the same.
So Brandon follows up with, the first time I went, I was able to tell my fellows that I felt uncomfortable, and they were fine leaving with me and helping me decompress.
Absolutely.
That's so cool, Brandon. Thanks for writing that in. Wait, there's more. David writes, "Oh, I love this combo. I'm sad I'm late. It's okay, David. We're happy you're here.
We just started.
Yay. So there's so many cool things that you guys are bringing up, but one of the, I want to reflect on like my own experiences here.
Mm-hmm.
So I am on the opposite end of that.
And I love that.
I've been, here's where I am. So when I've only been to a bathhouse twice. The first time I was drunk, the second time I was like semi-drunk. And when I was there the first time, like not in both experiences, they weren't enjoyable for me. Right. The second time I went there with my fraternity brothers because it was part of,
you were in a gay fraternity?
I was in a gay fraternity during undergrad. Yeah. It was in a,
that's like that online thing.
Fraternity
X. It's like, you better take this dick.
So we went. Those videos are so unbelievable. They're like, bitch, no one's talking like that.
It's like, how it was so easy to get in, and now you're like,
also, why is that living room so dirty
all the time?
It's dirty, and I'm always blown away because I'm all thinking, is anyone straight here?
Right.
Because if you're saying you're straight and you guys are going in like you are,
it looks like a trap house, not a frat house.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Oh, wise words. But so
spray paint on the wall.
Yeah.
Like, stick to dick here.
So my I've only and they weren't like enjoyable experiences, and in general I've always felt like I can relate to what you were saying about Indiana because I'm from Pennsylvania, and like for me it's sexuality has always felt like shameful and very private, and like in my earlier relationships I was very jealous. I was incredibly jealous. And when I moved here, there were all these new things that I was exposed to, like open relationships. I didn't even know that was a thing until I moved here. There was still HIV stigma and shame, but like this is the first place where I've been where like that shame is almost non-existent here, although it still exists.
I would say, and honestly, I think we should talk about it. It is here. It is here.
Of course it is. Yeah.
It is here, even when people are acting on their behaviors. Like I would say, it's like, okay, so you know how we talk about like we're not the arbiters of anyone's sex conduct.
Yeah.
And I add like a caveat. It's like, I'm not going to be the arbiter, but you need to be. And if you are not comfortable with the choices you make, and I have on one of my profiles, like on Grindr or somewhere, it's like, discretion is a given.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're not comfortable with the choices you're making, that's on you. You need to check your motives.
Yeah. Well, for me, what I was trying to get to before you interrupted me was that.
Oh, wow. You know what? Wow. I'm feeling like, you know what? It's Juneteenth. No more violence against me, okay? Exactly.
It is Juneteenth. Okay, so
I was freed. We were free.
Right.
We were free from this tyranny. I'm gonna need you to. This is what happens when I'm gone for a week. You missed me.
I did miss you.
Yeah.
But so for me, going back to this idea of being conservative around like sexuality is for me, it's always been zero sum. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if that's related to my like being a man of color or being like or racism within like the LGBT community, but. For me, like to think about sexuality, it always felt like it was like a game that someone was either winning or losing, right? And so, whenever I was like having sex, I was very private about it, but I was also trying to like amass numbers because a lot of like my identity was wrapped up in it.
Yeah.
And so it was only while living in San Francisco where I've met people who like didn't have the same ideas that I did about sexuality, where like more than one person can be hot and more than one body can be hot.
Yeah.
And and all of that is very new to me. And the other thing is like to not feel threatened by other people's sexuality, which is also like a new thing.
That's a big thing. Yeah.
Yeah, we have another
We
comment.
have a comment. Love it. So David writes, at first when I would see other sober friends at sex venues, I would be a little apprehensive and weird, but got over it. Mostly love seeing other sober people nowadays, rarely interact with friends in a non-like situation. I know now it's important to model sexual freedom, especially for others. That feels super uncomfortable and awkward. One thing I remember is sex is awkward and uncomfortable at times, especially initially.
Yeah,
It's
thank you
true.
for that,
Yeah.
David.
And
Yeah.
it's true in the beginning. In the beginning, like it didn't just happen that I decided, oh yeah, I'm gonna go to the sex club and it's gonna be perfect.
Yeah.
No, I remember like it used to be this big production about looking around on the street so nobody saw me going in the front door, even though they probably didn't care. And then
Or they were going in after you.
yeah, they were going in after me. Oh, because that was tough.
Yeah.
That was tough. And then the process, because like you say, even inside, I went through a period where I have to be in the room. I can't be around other people. I don't want people to see me naked. I don't want to listen to whatever. And it's been over some time.
Yeah.
And of course, I had to kind of reclaim some of that spirit after the drugs gave me all this false freedom because crystal meth, all of a sudden I'd walk in the front door naked.
Yeah.
The drawstring, I'm like, yes.
They'd be like, sir,
You need to put your clothes on.
Yeah.
there's a locker.
I know this is a pizzeria.
Yeah.
So,
I was bringing you some pepperoni. Just the
yeah,
pizzeria.
you dumb bitch.
This is what the AI is gonna plug. Bitch.
Bryan, did you have a thought about that?
Yeah, no, I was gonna say, like, I remember the first time I went to a bathhouse here. It was in Berkeley, and I was so nervous. And I told my partner at the time, I was like, I'm gonna go to the bathhouse because I need to have this experience. And he's like, okay. And you know, like I was like shaking when I got in there, and then I'm like trying to put my stuff in the lock, you know, and I feel like it's you know, it's like any kind of new sex act that you're gonna do, like it's always gonna be awkward and nerve-wracking at first, and then you know, like, but I mean, after an hour of walking around, you're kind of just like, okay. Like,
Oh, and it doesn't help that there are other people involved, because I was thinking about like you got people who are professional when they're there who like know
something to say. Yeah.
and there's this thing like I'm much better at it now, but sometimes people don't pay attention. They don't read social cues. Like you can pass by my room 150 times. And if I used to do this thing where I'd lie on the bed at Teamworks or whatever, my leg was long enough, and I'd look over and kick the door closed. No, sorry. The other, like last month, this guy, he came to our door. He looked in, and I said, I am resting, because I was trying to be really thoughtful.
Yeah.
I'm resting or whatever. I was like, that was hint for get away from my door. He got all mad and he pulled it closed.
Oh my God. I want to go just to see you act like that.
I just see you like with your leg hanging out, taking a door glove.
That is the funniest thing.
Well, really, the thing that I do is I realize that for every person that that's not interested in me, I'm not interested in someone else, because it's so easy. Like when
of course,
it's so easy, and this can really fuck with you. But it's like it's so easy to think, oh God, nobody wants me. But you've been saying no to this whole line of guys or whatever, and it's like, and if I'm spiritually right, because that's a big thing too. I have to be spiritually right when I go, like, because if I'm going there, it's not like, oh God, I need to relieve tension, I'm all pissed off. No, that would be the worst time for me to go, because
I have so many sexual hangups. Hold on, I have to burp. I didn't want to do it into the mic again.
I know exactly because I'm gonna have to mark that mic too.
So you know what's funny? So when I went, what did David say? Oh yes. So when I went to, I remember so this is what's funny is that both times that I went to the bathhouse, like I didn't know what I was doing, right? So I thought that you had to.
Just say it.
I know. I'm so fucking dumb. So I thought when you go to a bathhouse, you had to do sexy things. Hold on.
What?
So I was like, well, because like the one in Berkeley, Steamworks, right? In
Yes.
Berkeley. So they have like that hot tub, and then they have like the showers.
Yeah. So
And
you
the
were doing-
only thing I knew, I was like, well, showering is sexy. So I remember I was like, I went to the shower, and then like, you make eye contact or whatever with someone. And so I hooked up with someone, and then I went back to the shower because I thought that's what you did. And somebody came up to me and she goes, "Are you showering again?" It was it was some guy, and I was like, "Oh well, I'm doing this wrong."
Well, the first time I went, I was like, I also was like, hadn't had that experience of being like around people that I knew there. And
Yeah.
so like I was kind of hoping that I wouldn't see anybody. And like I walked in and literally the first person I locked eyes with was a sober fellow. And I was like, "Oh, hey." And he's like, "Oh yeah, I'm just leaving." And I was like, "Oh my God," like literally
Yeah.
2
And
minutes
you're all-
after being in there.
And the key to it is like, I can't, as much shame or guilt or embarrassment I have, this person's here too.
Yeah.
You know what I do? I still do this because even though I'm comfortable and whatever, and I want other people, I like to give people their space.
Yeah.
Like meaning like I will try to be mindful, like in more open areas or whatever. I don't need to go down that road. I don't need to.
Yeah.
You know,
I also don't want people to see like me because I don't know.
You know, see them
like
see-
getting
yeah,
back
like,
shots.
My animalistic, coming.
I warned somebody one time. We went there for communion. It's like when the rooms, we went at the same time, and I said, "I just want you to know that you probably are going to see something you thought you'd never see.
Oh my God.
So you can either go the other way or whatever. But when I'm in it, I'm not going to stop."
Yeah. God bless you.
We have a
Where's this?
comment.
Do we have a comment? Brandon writes, "Oh,
Yeah.
it's important for me." You guys want to move this over
Yeah,
here? Like, I'm
exactly.
just like, okay. Brandon writes, "It's important for me to be comfortable leaving without having had sex with someone. If I am not okay, not getting laid, I'm at risk of hooking up with people that I know are high."
Absolutely.
Oh, shit, Brandon.
That is like so
That's
spot on.
so good.
Like you got to go in with no expectations.
Well, I used to
Yeah.
do that with nightclubs. Whenever I would go out, I'm like, I need to hook up with someone tonight, or I had a
Absolutely.
bad time.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Well, this goes back. I mean, going back to kind of like my hangups that I've been like trying to work through. It's like this idea that like if I'm not being hit on, or if someone doesn't find me attractive, or blah 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 blah, then I'm somehow invisible and I have no
Absolutely.
worth. And that is really difficult. And I find that like I remember, I was like one of my favorite sexual experiences. I was having this threesome, and I've had more.
In the park over there.
Yeah, no. I mean, I've had like at the
Yeah.
most, I think it's been like 5 people, but
That's
this particular experience was very good because I was uncomfortable, but the 2 other guys were like super chill and very relaxed, and like the other guy was basically choreographing things. Basically, he
that.
was like, you go here and then you go, because I was like, what are we doing? I have really bad ADHD,
Nice.
and it was like a very enjoyable experience.
Yeah, exactly.
And I was like, oh, this was really fun. And then afterward, we were like had a cuddle puddle, and I was like, oh, I wasn't expecting this.
I love that.
So it was all very, very cool, and it was like a very nice experience. But I never thought that was possible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see that comment.
Yeah.
Todd writes,
I think the key is all about motives or intentions before it began. I personally allowing fear to mask the truth around the liquid courage. You can be the same person without having drinks first. I definitely think having sober fellows who can back you up and with some support, especially if it's a substance use trigger.
Yeah. Thank you for that, Todd. Well, and I'm glad that we're kind of the conversation is circulating around recovery, because I think, at least for me, when I think about like my sex or my sex life, I try to make it sober. Like, well, now
Yeah.
I'm in a relationship, so it's a lot easier now. But like before then, it's like I always had to ask myself, like, am I having too much sex? Is this compulsive? Right. And I'm in slop because I was having sex
Yeah, no.
compulsively. Or yeah, so I like this idea of like checking in with your intentions and motives.
Oh yeah, no, it's like I like to give myself grace because even though I'm a very sex positive person, or I love it, there are times when it can become obsessive if I'm not careful, and so I usually just have to check my motives, because I have a VIP card for Steamworks, and so it's my justification. I'm all, I got to use it before the 6 months is up.
I didn't know they had to be a. What's your experience with that idea?
So I was gonna say too, like there are times when like I'm like on the apps or something, and I'm like missing, and I'm not like getting any bites or anything. So then I'll like settle for something like less than that, and it's like something that like, or someone that I'm not really into, but it's just to like get off, and then I always end up feeling like kind of bad after that.
Of course, yeah,
exactly.
So I've always tried to like be like, it's okay if I don't get off tonight, or it's okay if I don't have sex, but
Ooh, and then the three of us, we should definitely talk about this. Okay, so my experience, so we had, what was the name of the place over here on Market? It just moved.
Eros.
Okay, so Eros was a place where I had to stop going because I realized that the guys weren't into me. It wasn't my scene. It wasn't my scene. Like I would go there and it would just be like a whole bunch of, back and forth. Like first it would be some of the same guys that I would run into. And I'm like this, it's like, if we attempted before and it didn't work, or I put myself out there, and it's not going to change next week. It's like, I understand that some people but no, it's like, I'm petty. And it's like, you said no last year.
Yeah.
I remember you.
Yeah.
I took a snapshot.
Okay. Can I tell you though? Can I tell you why that works though? Because I've had people fucking wear me down. Where like there was this. I'm being careful because my partner watches this. But well, I mean, this was before him. So there was like this one guy where we had hooked up once. It was great, but he became really obsessive and was like blowing up my phone and calling me from different numbers after I blocked him.
Oh, but you give your number out?
Huh? Well, that's a kind of
their own.
So yeah. Mind your business. So. But I was just
saying, it's like, I'm all like,
well, if it's like a repeat, then
like if it's a repeat, and I have, well, like I told you, I'm in slaw. Like I have a whole coding system. If it's a repeat at the
sex club, because I'm having. I always tell people we're having the boyfriend experience now, but I'm not going to be exchanging numbers.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So I used to have that's like before. Anyway, let's slow down. So, what was I talking about? Oh, so but I think the reason why some guys do that is because like they had, and this I feel like I'm part of the problem here, is that this guy like just wore me down, because at some point I responded to a text message and I'm like, see, this is why motherfuckers will like, they'll keep hitting you up because they, because someone's gonna bite. It's the same reason why I think people are comfortable catfishing, right? Because they've catfished enough where they know someone, even if
I saw like a documentary about that where like they were catfishing people, and then the people were like, well, I'm already here, like I might as well. And I was like, I would,
I've certainly been that person.
I don't think I've ever done that.
When I was doing hookups, even in my active addiction, I made it a point that I wasn't going to go too far from where I was. And I needed to
like traveling,
or unless the person was coming to me, and I needed to be okay when that door opens, saying, no, this is not going to work out. And something else that was pretty amazing, I don't know how I managed it. It was very few times where I just stayed because I was so that I needed to get up. Like I always tell this story about the guy. We did the work. We laid the groundwork. I said, I'm not into role play. And when we get there, when I get there, he starts looking at me lovingly and wanting to hold hands or whatever, and then wanting to, and it's clear that he thought that I might be like down, and so I got up and I started to get dressed, and he's all, where are you going? I said, I'm playing I'm role playing. I'm playing runaway slave.
Oh my God.
and if it weren't for the fact that I had, and if it weren't for the fact that I had lace up boots,
Oh my
because
God.
I used to try to make dramatic exits. I learned how to wear slip up shoes.
Oh my God.
So I know. I'm sorry. I had to.
Oh my God.
So, okay. So we also, I know. Exactly. We also put play spaces on there.
Oh yeah.
Because I think that there's a difference
Between play spaces and bathhouses.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, because I feel like with a play space, I think you're more vulnerable, you know.
You mean like at a sex party or something?
like a sex party or whatever?
Yeah.
Because if you
Yeah.
don't have, I can't get a room and hide.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sometimes I have to get a room because I need, if I go there by myself, I need to be able to go there, decompress.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You know, I usually don't get a room so that I can invite people back anymore because I'm done. It's kind of like I am at home. I'm not inviting you to my room.
Yeah.
Yeah. Brian, were you gonna say something?
No. So I have had I would say I've probably been in more play spaces than I have in bathhouses,
Mhm.
and I actually sort of prefer the play space aspect of it because like everybody's there to do like one thing, and like but it's like different than in a bathhouse because there's all like there's like the whole courting like thing, but like in a play space it's like we're here to fuck. And
Yeah.
I've just had better experiences in a place. And
I like the showers at the bathhouse because I mean it's like in the play space, it's like you get what you get.
yeah,
Especially if you get there late.
yeah,
What do you?
slim pickings.
Whoa.
What, Brian? Finish your thought.
But yeah, like I went to this, like it was like an orgy one time, and I mean I walked in and there were probably like 40 people, and it was like I was like, oh my God. And but I would say like the one thing that it was okay. It was the first time I'd ever done that, but I think the problem that I had was that I had all these expectations going in, like I was going to be like the belle of the ball, and that's just like not the case. And so going forward, because the individual who like kind of puts on these little gatherings, he like will send out the mass text to the list of people or whatever. So I'd gone back and like I just kind of went in there and was like, okay, well, we're gonna see what happens. And like if you just go in there like being like, I don't know what's gonna happen, but I'm just gonna go, it's like way more like chill and more fun, and you don't set yourself up to be disappointed if nothing happens, and if something great happens, then it's like it's even better. So
on the flip side,
Mhm.
those are the situations where I'm a little more apprehensive about parties like that or
Yeah.
whatever, simply because like I realize that I have a lot of friends who move like I do.
yeah.
What do you
And
mean?
move like I do, meaning they do these things. And so
I see.
this is why I was hesitant to go to places like Natoma or whatever initially, because I would hear stories and I was thinking, oh great, I'm going to show up there and it's going to be all these people that I know and we're not going to hook up.
Yeah.
And like I'm all thinking, I'm not wasting my time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Well, no, I was gonna say too, like the one thing that was a little I guess scary was about the thing that I went to, though, was that there was a lot of like smoking weed and stuff.
Uh-huh.
And it is kind of unusual to kind of be in that space. But I will say that like the few play spaces and group sex things that I've been to, everybody seems to be very respectful. They say like no, partying and no hard drugs. And, I think there's a little bit of alcohol and weed, but I don't know a lot of people who are like
some poppers so you can get fisted.
Yeah. Like just, little party
Punch.
favors.
Punch.
Yeah.
But everybody was like super respectful, with that. And I don't know. I guess it's to each their own, but like that's been my experience with it, and it's been pretty positive, thankfully.
Yeah, that's so. I feel very encouraged by you guys. What keeps coming up for me is like how like that, like the idea of being in any of those spaces sober sounds so terrifying to me. And what you're reminding me of is there's that party in San Francisco. I think it's called Dads in Training.
Oh yeah,
Is that
Dad
what
in
it's called?
Training. Yeah,
Dad
I've
in-
heard of it. I think it's Dad in Training.
Yeah, Dad in Training.
Yeah, at Club
And
6, right?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I know this story because my friend, two of our mutual friends actually went to this thing. Actually, no, it doesn't matter. One of them said they were going to go and then didn't show up, so the other friend showed up by themselves, and he went to the party. He has a conventionally attractive body. He's like very built and stuff like that. So when he went to the party, he thought he was going to be the belle of the ball, but he wasn't, because the people that were there had dad bodies, or they wanted guys who had dad bodies.
Yeah.
Oh, so I should go there.
So it was like one of the, so it was, and I was like, what? That like blew my mind, because here was, like, it's almost like one of the things that I really appreciate about like sexuality in San Francisco is that it does feel like there's something for everyone, or like
Absolutely.
there really is,
It
like,
always blows you away when you find out what people are really into. Because
yeah.
when you make an assumption about somebody based on how they look, and you find out they're not,
Yeah. 100%. Yeah, and I feel, I've had this conversation with Benji before, where like there is a part of me that feels like that I've like shortchanged myself when it comes to sexuality because of a lot of my fear and stuff like that. But it wasn't until, like, for example, when we had Stefan on last week.
Nice.
Is it Stefan or Steven? It's Stefan. Yeah. When we had him on yesterday, I was like, wow, I think that's like the first time I've ever spoken to someone who was just like so comfortable and solid in their sexuality and seemed to be like really grounded in their conversations about it.
Yeah.
I think you should. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, go
Well,
ahead.
I was going to say, like, I've tried to make it a point to try to have as many new experiences as I can, because I want to get to that point where I do feel comfortable. And even talking with people like that I'm having these sexual experiences with, and like getting, kind of, I mean, unless it's like a non-ass up thing and there's no talking or whatever, but most of the time, like I want to hear like what other people's like interests are and stuff, because I want to be able to like be comfortable just having sex and being able to go to a sex party or go to Steamworks.
That's the best kind of connection. I recently, and when I say recently, like the last 5 years, I have guys that we see each other, we hook up, we have sex or whatever. But when we see each other outside and we talk, and it's not awkward, because how that can be. Like some people are like, we don't talk, we don't do anything. I gave up the whole anonymous thing. Because it's like, especially like when you try to do anonymous online, like, okay, so I don't talk to torsos, I don't talk to butts. And you, before we meet, especially because I'm trying to make sure you're not one of the people I've been trying to avoid. I need to see your face.
Well,
because
there's something I kind of like, I want to see their face and stuff, but then I kind of like the role playing of anonymous. So like, I know what you look like, but I also sometimes want to be like blindfolded or something like that. And I think like, I think
it helps to know him if you're gonna leave the door unlocked, because you get robbed.
Right.
They'll take more than just your ring.
Yeah. There's
my virginity.
There's so many, like, it's safety is such a like safety is such a thing. And also I'm just thinking about like because some in this conversation, it's in stark contrast to like some of the, like when you think about like very conservative people who come from very conservative backgrounds, and like and I've been very much challenged by those things. So like I was having a conversation with a friend the other day, and we were talking about, I don't remember what it was, but it was like, we were talking about someone who, it was like an ass up situation, and they got run through by a bunch of guys. And and
I don't know why
like run through. Yeah.
Ran through.
And I remember having like a visceral response, and my friend was like, "What's that about?"
I'm like, I always,
he was like, "What's that about?" But I couldn't help it. Like I couldn't help. And he's like, and this is something that I've been talking to Louis about for a really long time. I'm like, number one, it's none of my fucking business. And who cares what I think about it? And, like I've gotten to a point where it's like, I had to like, because that was somehow programmed in me, where I felt like basically like my opinion about sexuality should determine how other people
Yeah.
behave,
Mhm.
which is like that's really old programming, right?
Have you ever tried it?
What?
Like the anonymous thing?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Because I was gonna say like one thing, like there are things that I had like
Yeah.
notions about that I was like, oh, I would never do that.
Yeah.
And then I actually tried them and I was like, okay, I actually like this a lot more. So like I like just kind of breaking down those like
Oh,
stereotypes.
yeah, yeah,
of,
yeah.
Well,
like,
that's why sex
so
clubs
the-
are cool
yeah.
because I can explore all of that.
Yeah.
I can explore the anonymous. You leave your room door open and I go in. The problem is when you turn around and say, "Oh, Louis,"
oh, it's you.
because if I don't recognize your
Well,
tattoos,
Well,
Oh
what's
my
crazy,
gosh.
to your point, Brian, is like that's 100% been my experience. Like, well, like you were talking about like being nude in front of fellows. Like I remember I went to what's that? The hot springs.
Harbin Hot Springs.
Harbin,
Oh, yeah.
you know, and I was like with a bunch of sober people, and I was like nude in front of like sober people,
Yeah.
and like it was only awkward for like
You're
the
like
first
the
minute.
black nude guy.
Well, because you know, like
when
when
you're
you're
all greasy and your dick's hard.
yeah, the guy outside. Well, because when you go through that phase where you're like, I'm not going to look at your dick. I'm not going to look at your dick.
Yeah.
I'm not going to look at your. You know what I mean?
I
But
used
then
to, at the sex clubs when I run into people in
Yeah.
I'm all just to make it, I would just open my towel and say, "Here, this is it." You know,
Oh my
get over, get
Oh
the fuck
God.
over it, okay?
oh god, check please.
we did that at the Fourth Dimension Fellowship retreat. We went to the clothing optional resort and went skinny dipping
CC
Oh,
after
cute.
dinner. Like
yeah.
like 15 of us, like
That's
that were
fun,
all
yeah.
sober. So that was fun to kind of
I had
break
some
that
friends when we
barrier.
did that.
Yeah.
We did that at the Santiago.
Yeah, yeah,
always do
that's
those
yeah,
Santiago's
that's where we
nice.
did it. It was fun.
So let me round off my thought. So basically, what I was trying to get to is, that it has been through like walking through fear, but
Mhm.
essentially doing the thing that I didn't think I could do, like ending up on the other side and realizing that like the entire time I was like in a prison of my own making,
Yeah.
Mhm.
you know. And I think that to me is wild to have that experience when, especially for me around like sexuality, is like doing the thing that I'm afraid of and then like being on the other side of that and thinking like, where the hell did that come from? Like
Yeah.
who convinced me that this was like gonna hurt me or that this was bad or any number of things.
Yeah, no, it's no.
I feel like we're definitely going to talk in the podcast exclusive stuff. Are we? We're there, huh?
Yeah, I think we are. So let's also, you know, for folks listening, as you know, we round off what we're doing here in front of the camera, and then we'll turn off our camera, and then we'll record stuff that goes to podcast exclusive. So it's stuff that you can listen to on the podcast. So let's start winding down.
Yeah, it's the Castro Country Club is a safe and sober community center for all people and a refuge for the LGBTQ recovery community.
We provide programs and services that help people change their lives by supporting personal growth.
Our vision is to reduce the suffering of addiction by connecting people to community, opportunity, and support.
You can find more information, including all the ways to contact us at www.castrocountryclub.org/podcast.
Yes, and tune in every Wednesday at 8 p.m.-ish Pacific Standard Time when we go live on our Castro Country Club Facebook and YouTube channels.
Find us wherever you listen to podcasts.
How what?
Wait, are we still recording?